My greatest fear is not running out of money or looking like an idiot. It's actually wasting my life.
What's always been interesting to me is you have almost multiple chapters of your life,
Right.
but you're living them at the same time.
Like, I don't necessarily care about slinging satellite images. What I care about is having an impact on the planet.
What do you think you learned from Dan Bilzerian, and what do you think he learned from you?
He taught me I did not want to be famous at his level.
You think he regrets it?
Oh, 1,000%.
All right, guys, bang, bang. I've got Bill here with me. Every time that I see you on the internet, I talk to you, I see anything you're doing, it just looks like it's fucking fun. And part of that is in line with this book you wrote called Die With Zero,
Right.
which I read, and I was like, man, this is like the book that I would imagine you writing, because it does feel like you authentically live your life that way. Where did this come from? Like, why is that the mentality of like literally die with zero and have as much fun as you possibly can?
I guess I was just talking about last night. Like, my greatest fear is not running out of money or looking like an idiot. You can look at my Twitter and I'm an idiot often enough. It's actually wasting my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get one ride, and I don't want to be 60, 70, 80, or even 55 and look back and like, holy shit, I wasted this time period of my life. I wasted my ride. I didn't say enough I love yous. I didn't take enough vacations. I didn't take the trip. I didn't do my best at X, Y, and Z.
How much of that is, though, because you've been skilled and fortunate enough to make money, and I think you have this confidence like you could continue to make money? If you weren't in that position, would you be more focused on not running out of money? Is it like a luxury belief, or
No. When I started thinking about this when I was broke, like, kind of what's the meaning of it all?
Yeah.
And it's like the money is a tool, like hammers and saws, right? Like, I'm not there to get hammers and saws. I'm there to build houses. So I always wanted to build a life, right? And whether it be a hut or whatever. And it's kind of, what life am I going to be able to build with the resources I have, right? Obviously, I'd like a nicer hut or a nicer life, but it was about not wasting those periods in my life, not wasting my time. Like, really, like, you get one ride, hit the grave with scars and bruises and a broken heart. And just really enjoy it. Just enjoy the ride. And then it's like, well, what does enjoying the ride mean to you? Get off autopilot. Like, really think about that. Because for each person, that's totally different. Right?
Was there a moment in your life where it like opened your eyes and you were like, I have to change something? Or did it just kind of gradually happen over time?
It was gradually. I read a book called Your Money or Your Life. A lot of people that's kind of like the Bible to the FIRE movement. And it really kind of hammered in the concept of your time and your money and life energy and the concept of enough. And so I was like, what does enough mean for me? What are the things I'm working for, right? Like, why do I go to work besides survival, right? Like, what does thrive mean to me? And so those concepts early, I didn't really have like Die With Zero ready to write at that age, but it was coming to me, it was dripping in. And like, I was thinking about the issues and what does it mean? And when do you spend the money? And when do you peak with your money? Is it a number or is it a date? Right? Obviously, like, if you're at 80, it's like, you're not striving for the number, right? So,
Yes.
all these things that are in the book, kind of came to me over time. And I wrote the book to save my own life, right? I was like, I need to get all this shit down in a mental model that I can use, that I can go and reference. And,
how old were you when you were thinking about this?
I started it in my 20s and blathered and argued with my friends all the way through my 40s. And then finally, it was just like, I wanted to build an app to just like, here you go, Bill, spend this much this year, spend this much on charity, spend this much skiing, go do this, spin the wheel for potluck activities so you don't have a cookie cutter life based on your culture. Like, I wanted this like super app. There's not enough computing power in the world and too many variables. But what I could do is have the mental models on how to think about your life and your resources and how to use them up, use all your resources in order to get the maximum net fulfillment.
What's fascinating to me about like the number is when you're young, as I was asking about your age, you usually come up with a number. And if you're like half as successful as you ever thought you would be, you hit that number pretty quickly. So I remember being in college and I started playing around with foreign currency trading. And I was just like, if I could make $2,000 a month, I could live forever.
Right.
Like, and I could like not work. And then you get on the real world, you're like, $2,000 doesn't really, buy you much. Maybe the number should be a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so at different points in your life, I think that you you realize that like expenses change, your lifestyle changes, things like that. But also too, you gain this, I think some of it's confidence, some of it's the skill set to actually hit higher numbers. And I do think that there's this element of like some people, if there's a number they have in mind, it is very much limited by what they think is possible.
Right.
Few people are like, oh, I don't have any skills, I have no experience, but I want to be a billionaire or I want to be this and mean it. Now, some people just say it, but unless you have some path or you can see like the light at the end of the tunnel, it's hard for people to have high ambition because it just feels like they're like screwing around, they're wasting time. Yeah. Whereas with this, it's not about a number. It's more of anyone can do it. Like you can go travel around the world on a budget.
Right.
And you don't necessarily have to be the richest person ever.
No.
And you can have the experiences. And so it is almost accessible to more people in the world than just, oh, you have to make money and then you get to enjoy these things.
Yeah, a lot of times people tell me like, oh, it's easy for you to say when you're rich. And I can tell you every single place I've been in the world, there's been somebody doing it at 1/1000th the cost, looking at the same thing. I'll be in Capri looking over and be like, this is beautiful and this is awesome. There'll be somebody who just backpacked over, took the ferry on a super saver, and they're having the same damn experience and enjoying life. I went to Thailand and I'm like, these people are happier than me. They're doing something right, you know?
What do you think they were doing?
I think they were living in gratitude and they were appreciating things and they were more present and they didn't have this concept of like relative deprivation. You know, it's like you're rich and like, well, that guy's richer than me, so I gotta be rich. You know what I mean? That type of thing. And so, I think those things go a long way because it also cracks your head open to like what you really want based on your resources, not envying what somebody else has or this other life you should be living.
Yeah,
right?
It makes me think of two things. One is there's this whole idea of happiness being what are your expectations and then what are your results in relationship to the expectations.
Right.
So you become exponentially more happy if you just have very low expectations.
Right.
Because you just constantly achieve, what the expectations were. So there's no letdown. And that's like an interesting thing. But also I was reading a book recently, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman. And in it, he has a quote from Scott Adams, the cartoonist.
Right.
And he says, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have a flexible schedule, the person with a flexible schedule and less resources will actually be the happier person.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's like understanding what you want and actually doing that and being in gratitude, right? And a lot of people, I speak to a lot of like way richer than me people, whatever, who have been habituated into this rat wheel. And like I said, like the goal is to build houses and they're just collecting all these hammers and saws. They're like, look at all these hammers and saws I have. And I'm like, that's not the goal. The goal is to build houses, and to build a life. Right. Yeah. And they're not using the tool, right? They're going into Chuck E. Cheese, getting all the tickets and then walking out and walking out mean dying with all these Chuck E. Cheese tickets. And I was like, the purpose isn't the tickets. The purpose is all the prizes up there. Now they're cheap prizes and stuff, but you get my analogy, right?
Like, well, everyone's been to some degree around someone that they think is successful. It could be, hey, this person is got a higher, job role at a different company and it's the same industry. Could be somebody who's been around a billionaire or some, monetary achievement. But if you like go on a trip with them or around them while they're on a vacation, and if they're the person who's like walking around outside at dinner and they're on the phone the whole time versus the people who are actually sitting at dinner enjoying it. Yeah. I always think to myself, like, you can have all the money in the world, but if you got to answer that phone call in the middle of dinner while you're on vacation,
those guys are batteries.
How free are you?
They're like working for you, right? Like, it's like, go make the product cheaper, faster, better, or whatever it is for me. Like, you don't really have a life. Like, and you've been habituated to think that this form of slavery that you've enslaved yourself, this addiction you have, is what's making you happy. And it's not, but like, you can't argue with a heroin addict. Like, you have a problem with their heroin addiction. You know what I mean? They don't. They're like, I'm happy as hell, right? Like, give me another hit, right? And so it's kind of, it's really a book about, like, when you dig into the book, right? It's really about, taking your wealth, your health, and time and maximizing your fulfillment. But it's really about awareness and getting off autopilot.
Yeah. What is the path for you in terms of your balance between work and then that life enjoyment? Do you have like a schedule that you try to stick to? Do you have like a specific framework that you like have everyone around you be aware of so that they know, oh, Bill's not here in the office right now, or he's not doing this because he's off enjoying life?
I mean, I generally enjoy my work. Kind of follows me because thanks to technology, you could be anywhere. You have your phone, you have your work. At least in the fields that I'm working with, right? There's Slack for all the different companies. There's trading apps, and we built our own in-house thing that's on your phone. So the real thing for me is to realize, in this time period of my life, what experiences belong, how much, and am I getting that out? Right. So like if I'm not spending enough time with my wife or my kids or talking to them or seeing these events, then I know I'm out of balance. Right. It's really, really hard and takes being off autopilot and focusing to know what balance means for each person. Right. For some person it might be like, I should be skiing my ass off because I'm going to win the ski nationals and I should be training. I'm not training enough. Right. But it's understanding what your goals are during that time period and making sure you're allocating your time to it. Right. And
on the trading side, how much trading do you do on your phone?
I would say from 100%.
Really?
100%. A lot of times it's a Slack message to my clerks going, hey, execute this or do that. But there's a app called ICE Web Mobile. I can't recall the last time I put one on a desktop, an ordering on a desktop. I mean, actually, I went in the office the other day and I was like, hey, can you guys set up the application on my computer? And it's like, oh, forgot my password. You know what I mean? Because I'm always, I'm always thumbprint logging in on my phone, then 2FA and a hassle. And then I still didn't use it. I was like, I went into the other room and I used my phone. And so I am so used to the phone being the source of all things work and play and Twitter battles and whatever that I rarely use a desktop. And to the point where my wife was like, this is hurting your eyes. You need to start using the desktop. You can open up more windows, you'll be more productive or whatever. But then it's like, I gotta be there. But she's right. Like I am hurting my eyes and I should start using the computer more. So maybe that'll change a little bit when I travel.
How big are the trades that you're doing off your phone and like how often? Is this like you're like doing multiple trades a day?
No, I'm not like the stock day trader Jamian. I'm a seasonal positional trader. So, I manage and prune the position, but they can be extremely large. They can be like, oh, I got to get out, sweep, at least as a percentage of our fund.
Like 8 figures, 9 figures.
Oh yeah,
6 figures.
I mean, our fund right now is $500 million. We're a very volatile fund, so we have a pretty large VAR. So I mean, our P&L swinging 10 to 50 million, 60 million a day. Yeah. So whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, the reason why it's interesting is there's a lot of tech CEOs, maybe not a lot, but a number of them that have publicly stated they don't use a laptop or desktop. They're doing things off of their phones, but they're usually doing email, they're doing Slack, many things you just described.
No, I'm trading.
But when you're trading, most people, I think external perception would be, oh, you got to be in front, you got to have the 17 screens, right? You're literally
I have all my fundamentals on we have a in-house thing we call Skynet that has all the fundamentals. I can Slack and ask questions that are not there or particular graphs. I formulate my view, and our positions are more like a super tanker. We're not a speedboat zipping in and out and day scalping. At least for me, there's other guys who go in the office and they may do that. And so, I all my trades are mobile, and it's a blessing and a curse because I'll be off the coast, off the Amalfi Coast on a boat, and my neurons are attached to and thinking about, hey, I got to pay attention to the situation, have the fundamentals change, have whatever. Let me check the market. You can always check the market. It's a little annoying,
Yeah. But it's also like, it is a weird thing, right? Like you get more information when you're on the go, you get access to the markets because now you have the phone with you.
Yes.
But at the same time, you probably have to be somewhat thoughtful about, hey, I'm about to make a decision. Am I even in like the right mindset? Right. Yes. If you're kind of like, I just use an extreme example. Like if you're like, I'm about to go drink, I'm about to, go here, do this, whatever. I got my wife, like all these things are going on. And oh, by the way, and you make an offhand decision that could swing.
Yeah. That's one thing. Like I do not trade when I've had alcohol or anything like that. And, the market shuts down for a little bit and then it's overnight. And it's like, fuck, I cannot. I'm paralyzed for making a decision. I mean, I usually give the clerks and instructions, et cetera, like if this happens or whatever. But we're very, like I said, we don't have to make big decisions.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The tanker doesn't turn,
Yeah.
quickly. It can if it needs to, right? Something blows up, it's like, we know what to do. This is emergency, but
What's always been interesting to me is you have almost multiple chapters of your life,
right.
but you're living them at the same time. Most people are like, okay, I did the investing thing, or I went and then I started a company,
Yeah.
or I went and I played poker, or
Yeah.
whatever. You're kind of doing them all at the same time, right? And
Yes.
like that is your life. How did you get into starting the technology companies or investing in the technology companies? Because when you're doing like energy trading or the other types of trading, usually those are two distinct skill sets, different mentalities, different capital pools. But like trading energy or other types of financial assets and doing tech investing, maybe there's some crossover hedge funds that are starting to do it. But outside of that, those are really been two different industries.
Yeah, I think personally, I'm kind of curious, in science and technology, and in trading, you're always, we're fundamental shop, so we're value add on top of information, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we are, and so you're just hoovering information, analyzing it, and then, turning it into actionable intelligence. And so the more information you can have, the better. And sometimes, you ask questions like, well, how could we know this? One of my favorite things starting back in the Centaurus days was, why guess when you can know? We always say that. Like my clerks, my research, like, why are you guys fucking guessing? Just call up the government and ask them a question. There should be a person there who's required to answer the phone and give you the information. And so that kind of mentality sticks with me, and which is like no big secret now because it's so long ago and a lot of people left. But one of the things I did was like, why can't we run the weather models faster and know the weather faster than the National Weather Service comes out? And they're like, oh, a bunch of people tried it and they failed. I'm like, whatever. Like I never let the failures of other big guys, whatever, stop me. Long story short, I bought a $6 million IBM supercomputer and hired some weather experts, understood the models, and we did that.
And so you guys were able to predict the weather better and faster.
No. We're not able to predict it. We're able to run the model that everybody's looking at faster than the National Weather Service. So basically, the National Weather Service publishes its first day forecast and the initial conditions, right, that they started to run the model on. We come in, we pick up the initial conditions, we stick it in our computer, and then it runs it faster. So they get to day 4, we catch up to them, and then we run it faster. So we have the full forecast before everybody gets to like day 6. And that had value for a while. And then everybody kind of knew something was going on because the market was moving, quicker. And, technology like that, it's kind of like, how can I use technology to give me information that will give me some sort of alpha in the market? And one of the things I was getting frustrated with is, why are we guessing what the frac crews are or the rig counts are? Like they have this survey and you guys do this statistical sampling.
Explain what that is, by the way.
Oh, so frac crews are what comes along to basically put explosive in the well they just drilled, right? The rig just came in and it drilled a well, and let's say it's 5,000 feet. And they pour a line and it has concrete, but they put explosives to run crack to have the gas and oil seep into it. So that's an indicator of what future production is going to be, right? And it's very important to kind of understand, when you're trying to figure out supply and demand balances, what future production is going to be. And it's kind of an area I was like, why are we fucking guessing? You know what I mean? Like
that's what people were doing previously. They would
they're guessing. They're kind of like maybe they're making a good guess, maybe not. And I was just like, we can know exactly. Like why don't we use satellite data and optical recognition and machine learning to track every single rig and frac crew in the United States of America? Like we would know better than the actual operators, and we do. And so. And that was actually born out of another science project. I don't want to bore you, but there was this. You might have seen me retweet from slaves. So Cornell University had this thing called Freedom on the Move, where they were trying to crowdsource people to read these like old time newspapers and turn them into plain text, right?
Okay.
And I'm an impatient guy, as you probably know. And I was like, fuck that shit. Why don't we build an optical recognition thing, hoover all these things and kick it out? So I had my clerk do that. Boom. we trained it on 2,000 ads, and then it's like, I got it, son. Then we put 10,000, 50,000 ads in. It's like, boom, here's all the plain text. And then we're like, okay, it's all in plain text, but feature extraction, the computer doesn't know what that means. So we built a model to train it to understand, like, what does height mean? What does scars mean? What does mulatto mean? What is job description? Trained it on 2,000 ads, and then boom, it's like, I got it. So now you can feature extract any runaway slave ad, and you can do things like the seasonality of runaways. What was the #1 job from runaways? What time? You know, you could search by name, sort, right? And so there was this buried history in the data. And so once I did that, out of just plain curiosity, historical curiosity, right? Like I'm not social justing worrying. I'm just like, I want to understand our history. And I was like, why can't we do that for rigs and frac crews? Just get satellite data. So then we ran the experiment, and we're like, okay, negotiated forever getting satellite data.
Why is it so hard to negotiate it?
We're about to get into SkyFi soon. The satellite industry has long been a government-focused business, right? It's spooks, spies, very expensive systems going up. The government agencies are the customer. Long RFP, long sales process, et cetera. So all their systems, their salespeople, et cetera, are for that process. It's not geared for like, hey, I instantly want an image and I just want to show me the price, I want to buy it, right? And so I went through this process, almost pulling off my eyelashes to buy like $1.75 or $2 million worth of satellite data over 2 years. And I was like, shit, I'm trying to give these guys like almost $2 million. It's taking me 3 months to cut a deal. And you know, they were trying to region restrict me and all kinds of other crap. I'm like, no, my region is the globe, right? Sorry, hitting the mic here. And anyway, long story short, we got the deal, built the machine, and we don't guess, we know. We know what every single frac crew in America is doing. We know what every single rig is, and we can do it for Canada, or we can look anywhere.
How much money can you make off that information if you had it?
So that's the question, right? Like, so you're looking at it. It's like, it depends, right? Like this is the epiphany I had to like create one company, and then because one company gets created and then another company comes out of that. And so I was like, you know, at the time I'm a small hedge fund. I'm like $100 and something million. I split the bill like 60-40 because I'm smaller with another hedge fund. They're like, yeah, we can use it. But that information may not be the proximate cause or the leading indicator in a whole year. Maybe once in a year, maybe not, right? It may give you an edge. So it's really a gamble on whether or not you'll be able to make a lot of money off of this, right? You can make 10 million, 100 million, 150 million, right? If you have a view different from the market because you have satellite understanding, or even like in a local region, like, hey, there's too much production getting hooked up into these gathering systems for this region, so this region's prices are going to crash, right? And so, but that may or may not happen, right? But it's kind of like a nuclear weapon, like you just kind of got to have it, right? Just in case. And so I thought to myself, I was like, I'm building all these tools, right? I've built this supercomputer that, you know, we got rid of because, you know, NWS eventually went to, every time they switch computers, you have to switch computers because that's the way it works. And they went to a model, and I was like, the weather doesn't matter as much anymore. Actually, it started mattering again, and I'm actually looking at doing it again, but doesn't matter as much. And bottom line is, my AUM, my dollars at risk is not big enough to take advantage of the tools I'm building. And so kind of kicked my CTO out and said, you know, we're digging for gold here and we have the best shovels, but we need to sell shovels, not dig for gold. And so,
because there might be other people who can use these tools with bigger hedge funds that they could.
It's like the gold rush, right? Like, who got rich? The guys who sold jeans and shovels. You know what I mean? There were a couple guys who were really good at finding the gold, and I'm very good at finding the gold, but it's tiring. And I don't have enough AUM to take advantage of the tools I have, right? Like, I got this big giant shovel, and it's just like just me and a couple guys in a shop. And it was like, this will be much more valuable selling to other people, right? And there's other industries that have more value at risk, like the insurance industry, right? billions and billions of dollars at risk. They would like to learn things about what's at risk here, whose house is going to burn down if there's a fire here. I have like, $20 billion at risk here. I want to know which houses I should be insuring or not insuring, or what houses I should be notifying that, hey man, the defensible space around your house is not that great. Could you please move the Picasso out of your house while this fire is going on, right? Yep. Being proactive and warning people. And just all kinds of ideas like that. And so, and I also thought, where is the most value at risk? And I came to the conclusion it's the ocean.
Interesting.
Because like 90% of commerce is on the ocean.
Yep.
Right? And there's also military risk on the ocean, illegal migration, sanctions violation, illegal fishing, pollution. Like, like most of the value risk in terms of either commerce or like environmental risk, et cetera, geopolitical risk, it's all on the ocean. And so I was like, well, if we can know where every single rig count is, why can't we know where every single ship is? Why can't we track and tag and know every single ship? And the ocean has a problem called dark ships. These are ships that turn off their automatic identification systems called AIS. And then, they're off for many reasons. They're broken or they're too small or whatever. But a lot of times people turn them off to do nefarious shit. Mainly illegal fishing, mainly sanctions violations, sometimes drug running, right? Whatever it is. And so,
and for those that don't know, this AIS is like basically a GPS that
GPS
Coast Guard,
for ships,
whoever
right,
would basically track where they are, what they're doing. Whatever.
Right. It was originally built for collision avoidance, right? Like, so ships don't crash into each other. But it's grown into like, insurance companies track them. Like, hey, are you going off path? We didn't insure you for that. Or what are you guys doing? And so that's knowing like, I didn't go into the details of the satellite data. It's a data fusion product. There's other data, state data that gets built into it, but it is a direct measurement tool. So is tracking every single ship. And there's multiple problems you got to solve. This is a massive metric fuck ton of data that you're downloading to do it from multiple sensors, et cetera. But being a trader, trading is data fusion, right? There's a supply and demand issues. There's the demand side. You got to get all these data sources and be like, okay, this is the data, this is the demand side, and then there's a supply side, and you got to get all that, right? And then and fuse the data and come up with your opinion, right, of what's going on. And the same thing comes over the ocean, right? So we had this like, hey, we're delusion that we can solve it, while all these individual satellite operators were trying to solve it, and we realized that they never could. One, they don't have enough satellites up aboard, and two, it's a data fusion problem, so you have to work with everybody else. So SynMax was born. And it was like, here, you guys go sell shovels. Sell shovels on energy trading, and then go solve this dark ship problem, which we think is like the big, big, big kahuna, okay? So one thing when you're trying to build this, that's got to solve 10 problems at once. But one thing you have to do is buy satellite data and train your models, right? So I'm walking around with a sack of cash trying to spend like $250,000, $500,000 to buy satellite data, imagery from operators.
And these are people who already have the satellites in the air.
Yeah. So these are commercial operators up there.
Yep. And there's a disconnect between how you want to buy, which is basically like, here's my sack of cash.
I just want to call up, like, buy it. Fine. Here you go, sir. Here you sign up. Here's your API, whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe myself, because I was looking at like some of these guys' sales and their annual sales. I was like, how could they behave this way when somebody's walking in here trying to give them $250,000, $500,000 on a fucking experiment? Yeah. It's not even the real product. It's a fucking experiment to get to the real product, right? Yep. And so in one meeting where I was trying to buy data, I kind of like lost it, as I do. And I was like, look, I like you, but I don't understand why the fuck I'm sitting here talking to you. Like, I should be able to just call. I can order anything online, from cars, pizza, massage, you know what I mean? Groceries, people buy. My friend bought a building on LoopNet 8 years ago. He bought a doctor's office in Texas, never seeing it in New Jersey on a cap rate, right? Like, what the what the hell's going on here? You know? And so I stopped myself. I was like, why am I ranting? I should just build it. Like, this is the time. And so I called my my editor from my movie making days, which we still have movie making capabilities, all this stuff. I was like, here's my idea, make a commercial. And he made a commercial, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what we're gonna do. And so at the time we were calling it Sat Bunny. You know what I mean? That was the name, Sat Bunny. And we were like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And so
why'd you make the commercial?
You know, it's an easy way to visualize what it was, right? Like, we had this, like, this is what it is. I should be able to order it on my phone, like I order a pizza or anything on Amazon. And like, you select your area, you task the sensor you want to do, it takes the picture, it delivers it to your phone, right? Like, you're James Bond, like shit you see on movies, like, oh, there's a satellite, right? And so it's easy to visualize, right? A pitch deck and papers, it's for me to visualize and for other people that I'm gonna align and just work on, right? Like, build that. See that commercial? Build that thing. Obviously, it's not gonna look exactly like that, but this is what we're gonna build. So everybody got the SimMax at the time, people got excited, whatever, but they're working on oil and gas products, et cetera. And I went to my friend Josh Baer at Capital Factory in Austin, and I was like, I'm working on a lot of shit. I'm probably gonna need to pass the hat around for some money. You know, SimMax is doing this. And he goes, look, this may sound strange. You think you're offering a value play by just investing in SimMax? You got to split the two out. He's like, they just like one thing, right? And so SimMax or anyway, that shit out SkyFi, and it became its own company, right?
People think you were crazy at first? Hey guys, what's going on? I hope that you're enjoying this conversation. But I wanted to interrupt for a quick second and tell you about a brand new conference that I'm hosting on March 4th at the Miami Beach Convention Center. The event is called LYCEUM Miami, and tickets are completely free for anyone who wants to come. I'm bringing together many of the most popular guests from the podcast over the last couple of years. Some of the guest speakers that we've already announced are people like Vivek Ramaswamy from Strive Asset Management, or Delian and Mike Solana from Founders Fund, Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast, Cody Sanchez from Contrarian Thinking, and billionaire Christian Augermeyer, among many others. I've got a number of amazing surprise guests as well, some that you definitely will not expect, and others that come from walks of life that you will be scratching your head as to how I even got them to show up. But come check out LYCEUM Miami on March 4th. The LYCEUM was a public gym in Athens, Greece, where people used to come together, talk about ideas, and debate topics that were important to society. I want to meet people in person, in real life, once again, after 3 years of a hiatus from real life events. And so I'm hosting the event. And as I mentioned, anyone from anywhere can come to this event completely for free. All you need to do is go to lyceummiami.com and you'll be able to pick up a free general admission ticket. Make sure you claim your ticket in order to get in through the doors. LYCEUM Miami is going to be a great time, so come check it out. Come hang out with me, many of the popular guests from the podcast, and other like-minded individuals. LYCEUM Miami, March 4th, Miami Beach Convention Center. I hope to see you there. All right, let's get back into this conversation.
No, they thought it was a good idea, but they were like, you know, Bill, you're doing a lot of things. You're playing poker, you're goofing off, you're wake surfing, blah, blah, blah. Like, how do we know
saw you on Instagram?
Yeah. Oh, man, you should hear coming up. You should hear the investor, like our investors and hedge fund, like they think I'm a space alien. Like they do not get it. They're like, how could you be this good at this thing? Blah, blah, blah. They expect to have a robot and a suit and a tie, and it's all I talk about is, you know, the fundamentals or whatever, and that's it. And then I go into a room and then I trade, and I'm just like, you know, there's no amount of money you can pay me to give up my life.
Yeah.
And that was coming in before they even invested. So if you're upset about my Instagram or me doing other things, that's fine. I'm not for you, right? Just
do any of them show up and want to invest because of Instagram?
Well, a lot of people have missed out on the returns that I've provided because of their stereotypical ideas of what a hedge fund manager should be doing, what their public persona should be, et cetera, right? They have an idea and a model, right, of what that should be, not this like guy who's like out there doing all these things, all these diverse interests, Twitter battling, you know what I mean, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, personally, you know, I'm like, fuck that shit, dude. Nobody's gonna pay me not to live my life, right? And that was the deal. And you know, they, you know, one very large investor came in. A bunch of other people who knew me, like knew the story of me within Centaurus, were like, no, that's the guy, right, for at least trading gas. But the new people coming in to like, hey, the SkyFi thing, they're like, look, you may be the Elon Musk, or there's one other guy who has 2 S&P 500 companies, but this is a lot. And I agree with them. I'm like, listen, guys, one of my favorite things to do is fire myself. I can't wait to fire myself, right?
Yeah.
I want somebody else to do the thing. I'm more a strategery, you know, have some expertise in a lot of areas. I have a lot of range, but I'm not necessarily the guy. So
how do you find the guy?
Oh, network and friends. So like for SkyFi, I was like, look, I gotta get a CEO. And so I had my friend Vivek bumped into this guy, Nikhil, and he's all ex-Uber mafia guys. They're like, what you're describing is exactly Uber. You know what I mean? Like it's very Uber, large platform, data analytics. We see it. We get the vision. I had 5 guys interviewing for the CEO position already. And, you know, I went through it, met Luke Fisher, who's our CEO, ex-badass, ex-everything, military, was in Uber helicopter, Aviate, Stanford guy. I mean, he's just everything.
Checks all the boxes you were looking for.
Way better human than I am, right? Like, it's like this guy checks all the boxes, but also got the vision right away. Like, he got my mission, right? And the mission is, like, I don't necessarily care about slinging satellite images. I don't give a rat's ass. What I care about is having an impact on the planet. What I want to do is make it easier for people to have this information so that they can have a meaningful impact on the world. Right? Like, it's like when you look back at the internet, like when people are talking about the internet, like, what are the use cases? And they would be like, oh, you can check your stock quotes and read newspapers, right? And it's kind of quaint, right? Like, you can do that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the massive impact that democratization of that information's had and the easification of getting that information, it's been amazing.
Yeah, of course.
In ways that are still happening, right? Like, the discoveries and putting 2 to 2 together, and the meetings, and the doctors on demand, and the health things, and like and then the applications on top of that. Like, how everybody here is searching for monkeypox. Maybe there's a monkeypox outbreak. Like, it's just amazing, and nobody has a big enough brain to give you all the use cases of the internet when it came out, right? And so when people say, what are the use cases of Earth observation data? I'm like, look, everybody has access to all this other data. Governments or very rich corporations are the only ones who have access to Earth observation data, right? And I'm not just talking optical imagery. I'm talking about things called synthetic aperture radar. This is a technology that uses radar to create images and gives you a lot more information. Can see through clouds, see through buildings, stuff like that. Hyperspectral, that's basically looking at every single part, taking like a 5 to 10 nanometer gap and looking at how in that color spectrum the object reflects it back. And when you have, like, let's say 200 slices and you're looking at the reflection, you can chemically fingerprint the pixel, right? That thing looks black because the chemicals on your shirt absorb all the other light and nothing else comes out, so it looks black. When you look at something green, the chemicals right there absorb all the other light wavelengths and reflect them back. But we can look at like green 1, green 2, green 5, green 6, green 7, and we can see the reflection pattern. And then we're like, you know what? That's polyurethane sorbate 8050, right? Like, you can start doing that. And this is what, like, you know, when scientists, it's multispectral. When they're looking at a planet, like, I don't know, some billion light years away, and it's like 2 pixels. and they use multispectral. They're like, oh, there's clouds and water and argon. They're like, how the fuck do they know that? It's because they're using multispectral to do that. They're looking at the intensity of the reflection of that single fucking pixel. So imagine you can look down at the Earth and chemically fingerprint everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so you get amazing applications. Like the big guys fly planes over and use hyperspectral to go, oh, we got a worm infestation on this side of the crop. We're overwatered here, not enough nutrients here, blah, 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 crop yields go up. But imagine you're a farmer in Africa who doesn't have access to that, but you can take a picture on your phone and then there's an application layer on top of it and it does it for you. Like, holy shit, we got a locust infestation. What do we do?
How big of the like AI, machine learning, all of that stuff is going to end up being positively impacted, not through text only, but through computer vision, through some of these overlays, the machine learning in terms of like image recognition, like all of these other things that seem to kind of, with Chat GPT and things coming so fast and getting all the headlines, people kind of forgot about all the video stuff, all the image stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like,
Yeah.
and everyone's focused on the text, but is the image stuff actually more powerful and has more application?
I think from a global impact standpoint, it's hard to say which is going to have a bigger impact, especially since, you know, like I said, no one brain is big enough to think of all the use cases. But, you know, SkyFi's vision, like the first vision is, first we got to easify it and make sure everybody can get access to it. Right?
Is it
Make
cheaper as well?
Yes, it's cheaper. There's two things we simplify. Process, right? Like I used to say, if I offered somebody, I said, hey, go get a satellite image in 3 days of this, or else I'm going to kill you and your whole family. Most people would be dead, right? Like 99.999%. That's how hard the process was, right? So we easified the process. And then the other part of easification is the price. You know, satellite images are generally sold on like these like 500 square miles, you know, 100 square miles. Like most people, the thing they're interested in, the problem they're trying to solve is in 25 square kilometers or less. So, you know, we went out and battled the operators and said, hey, product market fit is not this thing you're doing. Like I'm trying to drag you to the promised land of where the real market is and where the real applications are. So that's one part of it. But if I handed you a phone, this newest, latest, greatest phone with no applications on it, it's like, listen, man, it's got this processor and a serial bus and a GPS device or whatever. Here you go. Be useless to like 99% of the people, except coders and people how to do that. What really unlocks the value of your phone are the applications on top of it, right? The extraction of the data on it. It's like, great, you got this signal coming from a GPS. What the fuck do I do with that signal, right? And so with imagery, it's a signal. It's a bunch of data, right? Yeah, I can give you an optical image and it looks pretty and you can count cars manually, but a machine can do it better. A machine can extract things that you can't even count. A machine will tell you the canopy. A machine will look at slightly offset images and tell you the heights and everything like that, right? And so the vision of SkyFi is one, make the data available, but two, have an application layer or an application platform made by third parties, maybe one or two by us, but that unlock the information out of the data. Because people don't give a fuck about the image most of the time. They want an answer, right? Now the social user is like, hey, I want a picture of my wedding from space to memorialize it. I get it, right? But let's say you have a roofing business, right? And you want to prospect clients. You don't care about the image. You just care about how many roofs in this area are damaged or what are damaged so I can contact them and get a sale, right? Well, they could take a nice image and they'd be like, well, is that roof damage? I don't know. This is a hyperspectral image. There's all these fucking things. I don't know. No, they just want a computer to be like, this house, this house, this house, this house, this house. And this is a % damage on the roofs. And then they send out the letters and be like, boom, right? That's useful to them, right? People want an answer, right? Now, there's certain people that, hey, I'll do it myself. I got my own analyst. But that is the true humanity unlock of the data. And that's all AI, machine learning, you know, all these tools that will come on top of the data, right? And so that's part of the product roadmap of SkyFi. Easify getting the answers. And then the third part is storage. Like people don't want to be downloading gigabytes of files, et cetera. They just want to be able to move them, do the data, have a nice place to keep it. So we see that all as part of our vision, on giving people the tools to have a meaningful impact on their world. And that is the mission. Like my friend David Silverman last night, he was like, so do you have a target price you're going to exit this company? I'm like, target price? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, listen, I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about the mission. Mission comes first, right? And I tell people mission, you got to identify what's your mission, and then everything else comes second. Now, obviously, we have to make money in order to survive and grow. And when we have a mission as big and lofty as us, as entrepreneurs, we get a fraction of the value that we create for the world. And so if we create this thing where people can have a meaningful impact on their world, solve meaningful problems, deforestation, endangered species, et cetera, we're going to get a fraction of the value that we create back. And that's in my words, in a professional term, a metric fuck ton of money. Yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Is there a plan or like a path to you vertically integrate, eventually you have your own satellites up, or do you just want to stay as a marketplace? And one of the reasons it becomes interesting is because the cost of actually launching these satellites is dropping pretty significantly over the last 2 decades or so. And so eventually, I don't know if it'll be like, $20,
right.
But for a business, not an individual, but a business, it will be pretty inexpensive to get satellites up into space. Is that part of it, or do you think you can just stick with being the marketplace?
Yeah, so I rather stay out of that, right? Like I'm not trying to go and launch my own network or compete with my providers, but I'll take it even one step further. It gets even cheaper to buy satellites already in orbit. You don't even have to take the launch risk, right? Like you just buy them in orbit.
How much does a satellite go for right now?
I was told $5 million.
$5 million to buy a satellite already in orbit.
Yeah. And I was told, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. I'm trying to stay away from that side of it. But like, listen, like we're on mission, right? And we rely on our partners, our operators to provide us data. The same way Netflix relies on, the studio houses and the independents to provide content to give to the masses, right? Like, and what Netflix found out is like, hey, we got this buffet and these people feed the buffet, but they're not creating enough content for me. So they were forced to go into the content creation business, right? Because, they have their demand to fill, right? And so I don't want to be in that position, but if I am forced to be in that position, and our customers on this side, the demand side, are like, hey, I need these sensors or I need X, Y, and Z, then yeah, we'll put satellites in the sky.
How much of the data is satellites versus other types of sensors, or is it all satellites?
Oh, it's a good question. So there's multiple different types of sensors on satellites, right? Like I named a few: synthetic aperture radar, hyperspectral, infrared, obviously the optical ones. Yep. Everybody knows optical. But we're about Earth observation. So we have partners that are balloons, right? They have balloons that are static, and you get a higher resolution with a balloon. It's long lead task and down, and sometimes it's just archive only, but you get balloons in major cities. We partnered with a drone operator, right? So you can be like, I need a drone of this, and you go on the app, you task the drone operator goes and takes a drone around, and you don't need a big at scale image. You need a very sharp drone image. Plane, aerial, buoys, we don't care.
Yeah. So if you can get in, it's helpful. You'll take it.
Yeah. Our thing is we're trying to unlock the information of Earth observation data and get it to the geniuses of the world so they have an impact on it. So we are a data marketplace. Obviously, we're starting with satellites, but in theory, if our balloon partners were ready to go, or we already have taskings from one of our plane operators flying around Freeport LNG, which is providing information to me so I can understand when this LNG facility that blew up is going to come back online for natural gas trading. So that's already going manually, but soon it'll be, automatic, running it to the pilot, get out there, take the photo, whatever.
I always think of satellites as like one of the bullshit detectors in the world.
Yes.
Because if you go to the most extreme examples, like in China, they have these concentration camps. They say they don't have them. there's photos that appear to show
Right.
something. If you go to Russia, Ukraine, in Ukraine, there's accusations by both sides that the other side is doing something, or somebody says that they're making progress in either direction. And then you go and you look, and I saw today, I don't know if it was you guys or somebody on Twitter had taken a satellite image of what appeared to be a cemetery, 6 months ago, and now it looks like it's like 3 times bigger. And they were basically trying to draw a line between the changes in the satellite imagery to, hey, whichever side that's their cemetery, obviously people are dying.
Right.
The cemetery has grown. I saw one, I think it was you guys, Sofia, Bulgaria, and they were showing kind of like almost like a Google image or Google Earth, and then through you all. And so like very quickly you can start to see that like satellites, again, they're just providing information, taking a picture.
Right.
Well, those pictures sometimes don't exactly correlate to what is being said by people on the ground.
Yeah. I think journalism is going to be a heavy user of satellite imagery to what's going on. It's also going to be a bullshit detector on greenhouse gas emissions. Where you got a lot of guys saying, hey, we did this and we have a carbon offset in this area because we planted this many trees, or we shut this down. Then, there's long wave hyperspectral or greenhouse gas monitoring satellites going up and be like, nah, that's bullshit. We can see the CO2, we can see the emissions, we see what's going on. Hey, we're a drug-free zone. Nope, we can see the meth labs. We can chemically analyze the area and see the meth running down the street. There's all kinds of things you can call bullshit on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's the stuff that's coming, an analysis that's coming, that's capable. Like the capabilities are there. It's not science fiction.
How quickly can you get the imagery? So let's say use like a real-time situation. Everyone has seen footage of a police chase, and they got the helicopter in the sky with the spotlight.
Not gonna happen,
right? Can you get imagery that updates fast enough for that type of stuff? Or like, how do you think about
Let me tell you where we are right now, and then where I think the world is going to go with respect to satellite imagery latency. Latency is like, how long is it going to take me to like get the order to the satellite? The satellite takes the picture, and then the image comes back down. So right now you have to you place an order. The satellite has to go over what's called a ground station, and that's where it shoots up the commands to the satellite. Most of those, if not all of them, are at the North Pole because they go this way, and they go over the North Pole multiple times, right? And it gets its instructions there. Then you route it to the proper satellite that's actually going to go over the place you want to take in the time. It takes a picture. Then it goes all the way back around, comes back over the North Pole, and then it downloads the data.
Got it.
Right? So
that could take like 24 hours?
24 hours, 48 hours. We say 48 hours from task to get your order, right? Like if you're like, there's no clouds, high priority tasking, like within 48 hours. Technically, we could do it sooner. But the number of operators we currently have with APIs right now, we have a little buffer. We don't want people pissed. You said it was going to be within 24 hours, right? Like it should be within 24 hours. There is going to be an internet of space. And there's going to be ways for these satellites to communicate each other, instantaneously through the ground station, through the other satellites, through the internet, boom, boom, boom. So then you're in a situation where, hey, the satellite's going to be over it in 10 minutes. I caught it. I got instructions. It took a picture, and then it shoots you the information back. So within the hour.
So it's kind of like in the Bitcoin world, the Lightning Network is this like decentralized network of nodes. The satellites essentially act like a node in that situation, and they're basically routing this information back and forth. And whoever's closest to the North Pole gets told, here's instructions to a satellite that's close to these GPS coordinates. Find the one that's closest and has a clear shot, take the photo, and then route it back to the ground station.
That's where I think it's going.
Yeah.
It's
fascinating if that works.
Yeah, because, it does work for, there are certain people like I had, we tested with one provider and it was like, wow, we got to order back within an hour. Like, what the hell?
Interesting.
We were like, what are you guys doing? And, there's some internet communication satellites that are like kind of low bandwidth that are already up there. So I don't know if they were using that or what they were doing, but
and also it'll be interesting. Are they interoperable with other companies, or do they try to keep these like closed off?
They don't play well with each other right now.
That's what I figured.
They don't play. They do not play nice.
Do you guys worry about any sort of like conflict in space, like in terms of Chinese satellite and American satellite, or name your two countries?
So we have Chinese partners, we have Korean partners, we have Spanish partners. We have all kinds of partners, American partners, depending on sensor, planes, drones, et cetera. And we do worry about geopolitics messing with our mission, right? Because mission comes first, and that's what we're trying to do. And so we're definitely worried about that. We monitor it. We monitor sanctions lists. We're all on top of that. We'd like everybody to play nice because I'm about the masses and the businesses getting the information to make better decisions, right? And actually hold governments accountable. Oh, you said you were cleaning up this area? Nah, you're not. Not only did I could see it optically. I looked at it hyperspectral. It's not cleaned up. You know what I mean?
How much does it cost? Let's say a journalist wants to write an article. Somebody says they're cleaning up a space, and the journalist says, "I'd love to see, a photo from 6 months ago and a photo today." Is that like a? So I can spend like $20 and put it on my.
So I say like
card?
a 40 centimeter high resolution image, 25 square, $175.
Oh, so like pretty inexpensive, especially if it's like a single article.
Less than a prom photo.
Yeah.
I did a survey. Less than your prom photo. How about that? And so, and then, as the higher the resolution you go, when we get our very high resolutions up there, we have a partner called Albedo that's going to 10 centimeter resolution. Now, let me explain what that means. Because a lot of people are like, well, can I spy on a human? I'm like, no, you can't. Because the top of the line resolution that is going up optically is 10 centimeter looking down from space. So that means a pixel is 10 by 10 centimeters, right? Like that. You're not identifying a human from that space.
You can see that it is a human. You just can't see
exactly.
It is.
You can see cars. You can identify this. Your computer can do that. But and then you have to know where the person is going to be. It is a horrible spy tool on a human being. It is a great tool on looking at data, buildings, trees, trucks, pollution. Are there counting walruses and seeing if they're endangered, in places you can't get to? It's a great tool for that, but it is a horrible, horrible spy tool, and I can track you much better with your ad tech on your phone,
GPS or whatever.
Ad tech on your phone, or just a guy showing.
One of the things I always think about is when I was at Facebook in 2014, 2015. That's when it was like the heyday of internet.org, which was their big effort to bring internet to more people on the globe so that they could get internet access, but also obviously become Facebook users. And at the same time, you had Google was doing hot air balloons was like their big thing at the time. Facebook was trying to do like self-propelled drones, essentially, like kind of like like the paper airplanes you do with like a kid, like do that, but just like on a way bigger scale and beam the internet down. But SpaceX eventually is the one who seems to have backed into it, right? Yes. And so there's a couple of lessons. One is like maybe the first people who try it, they can't figure out the form factor or whatever, and somebody else does who's watched what they tried and didn't work, and then they can kind of innovate. But also, SpaceX obviously didn't start out like we're going to put internet satellites, and beam it down. No. And so it became more of this idea of like, well, we know this is a problem. We have the capability. We've already got the launch cost down. Fuck it, right? Like just put the satellites up and let's see what happens. Oh shit, it works. Well, how many could we put up there? How fast could the internet be? Like you very quickly start to do math and you realize like they built a pretty nice business already.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of fascinating because everything Elon Musk is doing is to try and get to Mars. And they're like, it's going to cost a lot of money to get to Mars. So guys are like, oh, we're going to have this satellite and we're going to make a bunch of money. And he's like, no, we're going to do that so we can get to Mars. We're going to take that money and we get to Mars. It's like, oh, we're building up these launch costs, whatever, because we want to bring down launch costs or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's fine. That's a great value add to society. We saved NASA and the government a whole bunch of money and launch costs is down and all these new satellite providers are proliferating, right? All these new startups are enabled because of launch costs. But it's really to get to Mars. Like everything he's doing, just backing in, like, how could he use that to either get to Mars or make Mars habitable, right? And that's kind of fascinating, right? Because he's on mission. And so it's like, oh, does SpaceX fit the mission? I mean, does this internet satellite fit the mission? Yeah, it fits the mission, and this is why, right? And so, when people are like, oh, Elon Musk has like $18, billion or $300 billion or whatever he has, whatever his net worth is at the time, I'm like, nah, that guy's got about 50 million bucks because all that's spent to go to Mars. You know what I mean? Like this is his mission, his life's mission. And so I think
what always cracks me up too, like, yeah, he's worth that, But I think a lot of people don't realize that like Elon Musk does not have $200-300 billion sitting in cash in his bank account. He like calls up his bank and is like, "Hey, is it still there?" Right?
I don't think I wouldn't even. I mean, I would guess. I have no clue. I don't even think he has $200-300 million in his bank account.
No. Why would he?
No. He is fully vested in his mission, and I really admire him for that.
Mm-hmm.
Really admire him for that.
I also think that when you have the ambition he has, but also the capabilities he has, when you see lots of cash, he can quickly tie, if I have access to cash, here's a thing I could build.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it's like kind of if you were to say to yourself, there's a lot of firewood. If you know how to make fires, right, and it's cold outside, you see the firewood for what it is, which is fuel for making the fire and keeping you warm.
Let's go back to Die with Zero, right? Like the purpose of the money is to fulfill yourself, right? Like to convert it into the experiences you want to have. The purpose of money for him is the experience he wants to have is to get the fuck to Mars and turn Mars habitable. So when he sees money, he's like, oh, who could I hire that's genius, right? That will get me to Mars or make the planet a better place, right? So that's his mission, right? And so the money is converted into those experiences. Right. Yeah. And so if you look at kind of like, if you listen to him, I haven't listened to everything he said, or when you sit down and talk to him, it's like, this guy's on a mission. He's relentless about the mission,
I did a analysis, which is I Googled, and I looked at companies that he has started. Now, before everyone gets into the huge debate, let's just say the companies he's been involved with, he started. I know there's some people like to argue it, whatever people did on the internet. But if you go down the list, it was like, you have PayPal, then you have SpaceX, you have Tesla, you have Neuralink, you have Boring Company, and then you have OpenAI, right? And so not including Twitter or anything, just these are companies that he was around in the beginning, right? However you want to characterize it. And he's done that since he was basically 20, and he's like 52 or something now.
Yeah.
So the guy is averaging one multi-billion-dollar company every 5.5 years.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
I mean, I don't know if there's another person in the history who has been able to accomplish something like that.
No, not at the level. Maybe an investor has like invested in stuff
like the John Rockefellers. Maybe they had a lot of companies.
Yeah,
but not each individual company was this big.
Yeah, and the impact, right, is just amazing. Right. Like I love when people are talking about Tesla in the beginning and, people buy the stock, not buy the stock or whatever. But I was like, if you listen to him, like I listen to what he says, he's like, the purpose of this company is not to make money or whatever. It's to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles. What a wild fucking success that has been. Like he fucking knocked it out of the park. Like with that mission, right?
Go stand in any city in America that has any level of density and you will see a lot of Teslas.
Yeah, but it's not even his car. He's like, I don't care if Ford or somebody else comes. Like, I want to accelerate the adoption. I want to blow out the park. And now every single one is like, holy shit. Governments, everybody is like, this was a pipe dream, and they poo-pooed him. Ford and GM CEOs were talking shit about Tesla. I remember like these, like they scoffed at this guy, and it's like, it's just amazing the impact he's had, whether you agree on the impact or not, right? Like people like electric cars and the devil and cobalt and whatever. It's just fucking amazing the impact he's had on the world with respect to electric vehicles.
When you think of somebody like that and other business leaders, I was at a dinner over the weekend, and a friend threw out this idea. He said, what did Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos know as to why they sold a lot of stock at the end of 2021, top of market, right? And we started to kind of talk through the details and debate a little bit in terms of kind of why those types of people were able to time markets when many hedge funds and others who are, that's their job, right? It's to time the market, weren't necessarily successful. And one of the conclusions we came to is like they have such an immense amount of information. Right. Now, some of that information is things like satellite imagery, different reports, all that. Also, some of that information is what I would consider more like human intelligence. Yeah, a lot of freaking people on the payroll who are really connected, who got tons and tons of conversations going on, and they're just understanding kind of what is actually happening, whether it's economically, geopolitically, or whatever. And so you start to say to yourself, like, I've always thought from an inflation standpoint,
Right.
company like Square has access to way more information that's more accurate in real time than, let's say, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But also these guys that everyone loves to yell and scream and hate on, like, actually, maybe we should be asking them for opinion about stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they got a hell of a lot of information. And they see a lot more than maybe other organizations.
They see real time what the impact of raising rates are. You know
like,
what I mean?
Amazon probably has a good sense of what the consumer demand is.
1,000%. 1,000%, right? Like, they understand what's going on. They have a pulse on they have real-time data, and they have real-time trends, right? Fed's looking back, old reports, clerks bringing in, looking through papers. They're like, oh, no. This is what's really going on real time.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and I knew that they were doing this a couple years ago, but I figured at some point they had solved the problem. But supposedly it's still going on. I think they employ less than 500 people across the country that literally walk with a tablet into like the grocery store, and they're told very specific instructions, sometimes multiple pages to describe one product, to make sure that you go and you get the Campbell's chicken noodle soup with low sodium. Like, it's got to be the exact one. And then they are in the grocery store and they type it into a tablet and manually input what the price of that item is. And then they go to their next like task and they go find the next product in a different store or a different service or whatever.
That just seems ludicrous, since all these prices are online. You can just grab them, and then you can actually request the store to post. It's just kind of, there's the government is not designed to be fast. They don't have the accountability that a company does. A company is not fast and on top of it and getting the information. They don't exist, right? The BLS is going to be there whether they fuck it up or not, whether it's slow or not. And so they're just like this kind of like, we need to innovate. We need to be fast. We should be doing this better. We should be saving money. That doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, I think there's actually a negative incentive, because if you don't use your budget in a program, they just cut you.
Of course.
And so there is a perverse incentive to spend and need more, to request more budget the next year, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the welfare programs has more administrative costs than the actual program, than the dollars they give out. I know this is true on one of them. I wish I had the name of it right now. But it's
actually not that surprising, right? Like, if you have a small program and you just have people you can't get
but it was
fired.
a fairly large one. It was a fairly large one. It was like SNAP or welfare or whatever. It was like, it's like the administrative costs exceeded the actual benefits they were doling out.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it's kind of like supports a kind of like UBI theory. It's just like direct payments to the people, and fuck all this bureaucracy, or whether you can spend it on this or that. People know how to spend it, but I don't want to go into that tangent.
I want to ask you about oil prices, and what's interesting to somebody like me who's very uneducated, but at least understands some of the milestones over the last 3 or 4 years, is when we saw the oil futures price go negative, I think it was, right? For kind of the forward delivery or whatever.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people like, what do you mean oil price is negative? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
so you kind of learn a little bit, right, in terms of storage and why somebody would sell a contract at a loss and all that. Okay, cool, got it. Then you fast forward to like Russia, Ukraine, and all these sanctions hit Russia. And you're like, wow, that's probably going to like really screw them up. And then like at the end of last year, I saw a statistic that actually trading with Russia on a dollar denominated basis was up, because the prices of many of the commodities had skyrocketed. So while there may have been less trading based on other measurements, in pure dollar denomination, it was actually up like 20, 30%.
Yeah.
And then you hear these stories of like, Germany still has to buy oil, so they're not going to buy it from Russia, or name your country.
They buy it from this guy who buys it from Russia.
They buy from China, who bought it from Russia and just marks it up 2x and slaps the Chinese flag on it.
Yeah.
And then you see countries like India who are like, I don't give a shit what y'all are talking about. We need the oil. We need the wheat, right? We're going to still keep trading with these people, and like we're going to stay out of the politics of all this.
Yeah.
How do you, as somebody who pays a hell of a lot of attention and actively trades this stuff, how do you process the information that goes on in something just like the oil market and actually get a good handle on like what is going to happen next?
Yeah. So first, I want to put a disclaimer. I'm a leading expert on natural gas.
I know.
And oil. I'm dangerous, right? Like so. Put that down. But like, it's kind of interesting.
For most people, those are the same thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's true. It's like. You look at like pipeline flows into Germany, but of natural gas, because they're like, oh, no Russian natural gas. But if you look at the LNG flows from Russia, like they're way up, right? So, oh wait, we put it on a ship, you take it. But if it's in a pipeline, a lot of it is theater, right? And I don't even know if some of the politicians realize it's theater. And so, you know, we look at the supply and demand balances on global. We look at how they're hiding things, how they're moving things, how the flows are moving. You're just redirecting flows and making the system inefficient, which actually results in more demand, right? It's actually
fascinating.
It's an environmental disaster, right? Like Russia's right here. You're gonna, you know, you can take the crude oil this way, pipeline gas. No, we're gonna chill it first. Then, you know, we're gonna put it on a ship, and then we're gonna liquefy it and put it here. And so it's like it's a very, very weird relationship. Like we're fighting here and giving these guys guns to shoot these guys, but we're buying oil and LNG from them here, but not through the pipeline. And we know it's going to China, and then they're you know, putting it on a tanker and then chugga all the way around. It's like, I thought we cared about the environment. You know, I thought we cared about emissions, not just CO2, but PM10, particulate matter, SOx and NOx. And so, you know, as a trader, we're just like, you know, fuck the bullshit. Let's just count, right? I graduated 8th grade. I can count. Or kindergarten. I can count, right? And so we just count. And then like some of us do some more interesting things. Like we call up our buddies in SynMax and be like, show me the ships that are violating sanctions, pulling crude oil out of Iran and Russia and loitering at sea and moving around, right? Which is something they can do, right? And so,
is it big?
It's a lot. It's a lot more than people think.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and they, you know, I guess you don't necessarily need to do that. You can just track all the oil in storage, right? And try and get an idea there, right? Like you use a sledgehammer. Sometimes you want to use tweezers. You know, it's a very nuanced position, and sometimes it's a sledgehammer position where it's
what cracked me up on this is Singapore. I guess a lot of the storage, I don't know if it's natural gas or oil, or maybe both, was drastically backing up, and they were very concerned. And I saw a piece, I think it was maybe in Bloomberg, they were talking about like, this is just Russian oil that is just being sat here for longer periods of time, and they had a bunch of kind of opinions as to why they were doing it or what they were doing with the oil or whatever. And I was just like, man, that's like kind of crazy that specific areas in the world are backing up with the storage.
Right. And the other guys don't have it and et cetera.
Yeah.
But like, you know, as an oil trader, you have so many different variables, right? Like you got all these different areas and you're just trying to look at global balances and kind of that's what they're looking. But yes, you have these like many distortions in storage and price, et cetera, right? These governments create all these price distortions and these incentives. Some of these incentives are terrible, right? For the environment, just in general. And some of them may be good, but like that's what goes on, right? And some people like make money trading the spread, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you give people an incentive, right? Like the behavior will happen, right? Incentives work. And so
what about the incentives here, like Keystone Pipeline and all that stuff, that to the average person, they will hear a pipeline got shut down, gasoline prices spiked, and whether true or not, they will connect. If we hadn't shut down a pipeline, prices would be lower. Like, how do you evaluate?
I mean, people have it's like going into a doctor's office of a brain surgeon and be like, you know, trying to like guess like, oh, because this happened, that happened. And you might get it right or et cetera, but it's a little bit more complex than what people say. And, you know, the news is so, you know, I go on CNBC, right? And it's a good show. You've been on CNBC plenty of times. They don't give you that much time, right? Like they'll ask you a question and it's like, you got to get the soundbite out, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people also don't have a lot of time or attention to hear the long explanation and truly understand what's going on. And so it's like, you know, we don't have enough refineries. It doesn't matter how much crude is flowing around. We got to have refineries here in the United States of America, right? We've lost refining capacity in the Northeast, right? California doesn't have any refineries, and it's like they have all these taxes. That's why it's always super expensive in California, right? If a refinery goes down there, it's like, oh my God, right? And so there's multiple factors going on all the time, and the news is like, oh, you know, they just want a simple answer that somebody, a layman, will accept, right? It doesn't even have to be completely true.
Yeah.
Right. It could be misleading. And that's kind of the world we live in, right? Like I think that's why like somebody was telling me like somebody actually sent me a message. It was like a long form answer I did on Peter Audia, and he has kind of like more of a Joe Rogan style podcast, right? 3 hours all over the fucking place, right? And it's like, you know, the people that really want to understand something, dig into a topic, that's great. But you show up on CNBC, it's going to be a 5-minute segment. There's always the hello, how are you, right? A couple questions. You just got to get it out. Get it out, right? You know what I mean?
And if you're good at getting it out, you get invited back. If you try to have too much nuance, they might not ask
they're
you
like,
to
wait,
come
this
back.
guy fucking boring us with his nerdy ass everything on how refineries work.
He
and
pulled up a
pipelines.
chart.
Exactly. They're like, get the fuck out of here, Bill Perkins. Just, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Tell me, is it up and down, and what stocks do you pick? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and that's kind of the show.
I forget who it was. I always say that Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn yelling at each other a couple years ago
Oh my
on
God.
CNBC, single best moment ever on
in the
financial
history
television.
of CNBC.
Yeah. But a very close second was, I can't remember if it was Leon Cooperman or Ken Langone. I think one of the two. They had Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren came on.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm a billionaire. How did I get a stimulus check? and he was like, actually like pretty complimentary about a bunch of stuff, but like he had this one moment, right? And he was like asking a politician, like, how did I get a stimulus check? And I remember just thinking like, dude, where else are you ever gonna see politicians, billionaires, investors, like all like they're interacting? And I was just like, this is amazing.
Hey guys, I hope that you're enjoying this conversation. As you probably realize, we don't run any ads on this show. That's right. All the other podcasts, all the other YouTube shows that you watch, they have advertisers. We don't have any direct relationships with advertisers, and we simply create this because we enjoy doing it. Now that we do that though, we have a team. And if you'd like to support us, one way you can do that is to go subscribe to the Pomp letter. It's a daily letter that I write to about 235,000 people about my personal opinion on financial markets, business, technology, and Bitcoin. Just go to pompletter.com and you can sign up there. I'd love to have you join us, and it's a great, easy way to support the work that the team and I are doing on a daily basis. All right, let's get back into this conversation.
Yeah, they have a great show, and they have great sound bites. But I get a little frustrated with the sloganeering. You know what I mean? Like even on Twitter and the short count, et cetera. It's like people throw out a slogan, right? And it's like, oh, if I identify with that slogan, this is right, I like it, you know, whatever, without really going into like the policy. Is it really effective, right? And so I think people have gone the opposite, right? They're like, party first, then policy, then people. And it's like, no, people first, then policy, then party.
You're talking about the difference between rationality and TikTok brain.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like literally, I think that TikTok brain has like infected a very large portion of the audience, and they literally cannot think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, every you know, all these different I'm not even going to say them because I don't want to get jumped on by the mob. But there's like all these slogans. I'm like, oh, really? How does that work?
Yes.
Is that really effective? Does that really help the people you're talking about?
But people use the slogans because they work, right? Like I'm a big believer that the market will ultimately find the things that work. And the reason why people keep using all these different slogans, whether it's for political reasons, for financial reasons, for social justice, like all across the whole spectrum of every single freaking topic in the world, they use the slogans because they work.
Yeah, like let me come up with the tribalist. What gets the tribe riled?
Yeah,
Which
you
grows
draw
my
a line
tribe?
in the sand and you say us versus them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just like say tribalist things, like, you know, whatever it is, you know? And so, and which then everybody starts to adopt that format, and we don't get like deeper understandings of anything.
All right. There's one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. So in fishing and in chess, there's been a bunch of fucking cheating scandals.
Yes.
The fish video is by far the craziest one. They're slicing open the fish. For those who haven't seen it, there's a fishing tournament. There's these two guys who had, I guess, gone on like a pretty crazy run. They'd won a bunch of tournaments. And at the one fishing tournament, it's kind of like filmed on a phone from far away. And then they get closer and they slice open the fish, and there's weights that have been put into the fish, which obviously make them weigh more and therefore add up to more weight that you have fished, which means you win the tournament.
Right.
And so it comes out, these guys are like, yeah, we did that, our bad, essentially. And they're like, no, that's cheating. I don't know kind of where it's gone from there, but like it was very obvious that there was cheating involved. In the chess world, there's talk of like anal beads or
yeah.
some sort of vibrating something, like whatever weird shit's going on in chess. But there was a lot of cheating scandals. There was some of the major players were like quitting matches because they thought there was cheating going on.
Yeah, Magnus famously
like played one move and just left. Right. What is going on in poker? There's no talk of any cheating in poker from what I've seen.
Well, there's
or is there talk?
Yeah, there's definitely talk.
Okay.
What
are the accusations or like the things that people think happen? And like, what is your analysis in terms of like, is there cheating to the degree that the fishing and chess people seem to think in their industries in poker, or there's not as much of that?
Definitely online. They're constantly rounding up cheats, people colluding, real-time assistance. It's a problem because now that, the computers, poker is a game of skill. For all you congressmen, lawyers out there. Otherwise, we would be able to beat computers, right? Like you cannot beat the computer in poker, right? And heads up, right? Over time, and so, people have real-time assistants, et cetera, online. And in live poker,
and what is a real-time assistant? Like, what do they do?
Oh, so that means basically a computer is helping you and telling you what to do.
Got it.
While you're playing.
So you may have it on like a different computer,
and you're like
or whatever. Feeding it.
Yeah, you're
something.
just feeding it, and you're just doing that, or you actually have it plugged in and it sees all the action and it just tells you what to do.
Which, if you were a cheater, that sounds like a pretty good way to cheat.
Oh yeah,
right? Is if the computer just tells you what to do.
Yeah, your RTA is a big problem in online poker, and
they're able to detect it.
Yeah, they're starting to detect it. So it's like a arms race, right? Then these guys have these like poker detectors. It's like, what's the odds that this person would actually make these correct plays at these frequencies, et cetera?
Got it.
Okay, you're out of here. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing.
So they don't even have to prove it. It's more of a probability game for many times.
Well, yeah, you can statistically prove it, right?
Yeah.
What can a human do? And then you can look at them in different scenarios where they weren't cheating and be like, oh, this is how you played here versus a computer score. And then here you played in this, in this scenario where it's, you can use a computer, and then you like.
That's code for you sucked and now you don't suck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you're a piece of shit, and then now look at you, you're a champion.
No, dude, I read a poker book.
Yeah, and then you have these live game cheatings where people, like, when you play a live game and they're being streamed, the back knows what cards you have.
Oh, interesting.
So there's been accusations of people getting signaled of what people have cards from the back office, or capturing the these guys have loosey-goosey security, and there was a criminal who actually a known felon who was in the back one of these things, and this lady got accused of receiving signals on the stream. It looked like her chair was vibrating. There was all kinds.
What?
Yeah. And it was like the weirdest situation where it was like you would never ever play that way in a hand unless you were monkey tilted and you just didn't give a shit about money, right? And even the words that she used like didn't make any sense, right?
Interesting.
And so there was this huge like you had to have been cheated type thing. The guy who she beat in the hand, freaked out, and the whole community freaked out. And she's not that great of a poker player. She would admit that. I'm not dissing her, right? And so her story was like, I was just nervous and whatever. It was a lot of like things like pressure and just goofing off. And on her side, like when you play TV poker, it's not real poker. Okay. I mean, it's real poker, but it's like you're being streamed. You want to do some goofy shit, right? Because you want to look like a badass on TV. Like the weirdest shit happens on TV poker that doesn't happen, like, say, when the cameras aren't rolling, right? There's more of a performance. And so...
You think she was cheating?
I don't know, man. I went back and forth. I went like from like 80, 90% she's cheating to like, nah, it's just one of those weird things, Yeah. And so... I don't know, and I realized like it was just taking too many of my neurons. Like why the fuck are my neurons here? I'm off mission. I'm definitely off life mission.
If it came out and was proven without a shadow of a doubt that somebody was cheating, would it change anything that you did in poker?
I mean,
like, would you not play in certain tournaments?
Yeah, there's certain things like they were like, oh, you got to come play at this place where there's cheating come out. I'm like, wait a minute, they fucked this up. They did this. They did that. All these weird things happen. Like, why am I gonna go sit and play there? And they're like, no, we'll have a lineup that we trust, and it'll be people we know, and we'll 100% correct it. But it's a turnoff.
Yeah,
it's a turnoff. You know what I mean? Like, it's not sexy. It's not fun, and like I play poker to socialize and meet all kinds of interesting people, to test my skills against other people, and then and to win, right? And to realize, like, you take one of those away, I don't really want to play.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to go play with uninteresting people, even if I'm going to win. I don't care. I don't want to play in a lineup where I'm going to get killed. So I had to get better and learn, right? And, you know what I mean? And I don't want to test my skill sets. So if they're
Will
cheating,
you play in any game where there's good players, or is there kind of like tiers where you're like, I'm better than, tiers 5, 4, and 3, but the tier 1 folks, maybe I'll set those out and I'll just play tier 2.
I'm not afraid of any lineup.
So you'll play them all.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I've always been that way. So before I was saying it's just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm goofing off. It's a lot, I'm trying to get lucky as opposed to win a skill. But I've gotten better in poker because it was becoming a very expensive hobby. And now I'm to the point where, like, fuck you, let's go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
How did you get better?
There's a company called Hybrid Poker.
Okay.
There's 2 founders called, I'm a co-founder, but I'm a small piece, called Matthew Gonzalez and Matthew Boyd. Okay. And they trained me.
Interesting.
Right. I'm a very bad student because I got 1,000 things going on, and poker is not like the highest priority on my life. But somebody challenged me online, and I was like, oh, you want to challenge me? You want to see what this old dog can do? So I actually went into the lab, studied. They trained me. And, he would spot me some big blinds, but I was going to beat him outright anyway. And they quit. I won the challenge, right? Because they quit. Because I was a lot stronger than they thought I would be. And
how long does it take to get better? Was this it was a lot, an hour?
It was no. It was at the time they were training me. It was like every day I had to play. Then there was hand analysis, and then there was study. And God bless my fiance. She was my fiance at the time. She was like, okay, like at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm doing 2 hours of hand review. And then, every time, practice, play, study, practice, play, study. And I was like, this is a real fucking job. But, my pride was on the line. My ego was on the line.
Yeah,
so, like, let's go. And so I told them, I was like, guys, everything you're teaching me should be codified and it should be a game. I should learn by playing. And so now they built this app where you can learn by playing. And it teaches you GTO and how to play a gash game or whatever, and they'll add stuff. And it's a beautiful UI. It's great. So hybridpoker.com for all you poker cash games. Like, you want to crush your poker cash game, go to hybridpoker.com. Shameless plug. But that's how I got better. And I'm, I got better, and I'm a shitty student. Like, I am. I'm like just distracted, right? Like, I had to, I put my time in there, but over time, if the incentive's not high, I'm like, I'm not gonna go study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people say, well, what's your hack? And I was like, what's your, when it comes to me with trading, this is an example. I had a potential investor come talk to me, and they were like, well, what's your edge? And I was like, my edge is I fucking study. You know what I mean? Like, I study every single thing. I obsess over this. It's like going to Harvard and be like, well, what's the edge of the kid who's an A student? He fucking studies. When you came to engineering school in college, that guy got an A and I got a D, you know what I mean? Barely passed because I was running around chasing girls trying to play football, not trying to study, and he studied, right? And so now the game is going to be amongst those who, the wizards are going to be those who study and put the time and effort into it, right? And, I put in enough effort to be like a C student in poker now, C+. If something's going on, I'll jam it. And then you put the cameras on me, and I can't help it. I love to goof off. I cannot help it. I cannot help myself. I love to do weird shit. So, like, I'm a favorite to do some crazy shit, and if it works, I'm gonna win big money. If not,
how much money have you won, you think? Are you up overall?
No. In tournaments, I'm up lifetime. Like, tournaments, I take a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Because the pain of spending 2 days in a tournament, not getting knocked out and not getting any money is just like enough negative incentive to be like, I'm going to take this seriously. And so I actually have a very good ROI in these high rollers and these tournaments. In cash games, I'm terrible. I mean, like, my lifetime is negative, but I can still crush it.
Because you're fucking around.
I'm fucking around. And the worst game is Omaha. I don't know if people out there know Omaha. I love and hate that game. You know what I mean?
I had a guy come on the show who I won't name. He played poker. I think he was like very good at poker. Probably somebody you would know. And he, after the conversation, you know, cameras are off, everything. And he says to me, "You play poker?" I was like, "Not with you." And he goes, No. We should play sometime. You know, invite some of your friends. We'll go. It's a good time. You know, I'd be chill, whatever. And I thought for a second, I was like, that's how this guy makes money. Is he not going to play with professional players? He's going to play with my friends.
Games in cash games, game selection is the biggest part, right? Like it's not like, you know, my friend Dan, right? Dan Bilzerian, you know, everybody was like, "You couldn't have made that much money playing poker, blah, blah, blah. You suck." And it's true. Dan is not a good poker player. Like I would destroy Dan playing poker. Like he's not that good. But he just played people worse and richer than him. Right? He's just got to be better than the guys he's playing against, right? And so he killed it. Right? He killed it.
How much do you think he made? Or how much does he claim
he
made?
I know he made $50 million playing poker. I know that.
50 million.
Yeah, I know he made 50 million playing heads up against one guy.
Oh, against one guy in like
against
one
guy. And then I know
in one game?
Not one game, like over a series of games. Yeah. And then I know
how much money does that guy have?
He's a billionaire.
Yeah. Right? If you lose 50 million playing against one guy, you probably should stop playing that guy.
Yeah, except, you know, these guys have cash flow of $250, $300 million a year. Like this is they're old guys. They're going to die. The money's got to go somewhere, and they're entertained playing poker. Yeah. There's guys who actually literally they like just whole living. There's people who were $75, $100 million, multiple of them playing one guy who likes to play poker. There's one guy. Right.
Interesting.
He likes his menagerie. Like, you know, there's certain people that like to have famous people around them and pay them to come and be on their yachts and do shows and sing. And there's certain people that like to play poker and they want to see if they can beat the best or beat guys and goof off. And
how much of like the professional players' lifetime earnings, whether known or unknown, do you think comes from playing like these whales that are not professional versus the tournaments? I
would say very little, because the professional guys never get into those games. So if you become like the wizard, like you're like an Ike Haxton or so and so, like at that level, but you don't have any fame or cachet, they have no reason to sit down with you.
Interesting.
So
if they know they're not going to win, and it's not like a moment to flex.
No, like a Phil Ivey or a Phil Hellmuth or a Daniel Negreanu may be able to get in some of those games, maybe once or twice, because it's like, hey, I want to meet the famous guy and I want to play poker with him. But they're not going to be able to like get, you know, $200 million, $150 million out of the billionaire class of poker, right? The guy who's like very good, very solid, who's not a pro, right? That's willing to stake, but interesting, right? They're going to become centimillionaires or, you know.
And are they entering these games with their own money that they could lose, or are they getting staked by people?
Some of them are their own money that they can lose, but most of them are getting staked and selling off pieces. Like they used to say, like, oh, when so-and-so wins, all of New York hurts, right? Because sometimes they win and like all of New York feels it, right? Like I felt it one where I had a piece of somebody that was going to play in one of these games and they happened to lose, and it was just like, shit, you know, write a check. God damn you. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, and that's the game, right? Like the billionaire's like, oh, I'm gonna put max pressure on you. Like I'm gonna hurt you guys, you know? Like they're just having fun. You know what I mean? They're just having fun.
Yeah. And to them, it's not nearly as high stakes.
Yeah, no, it's small stakes. Like if it's like the easiest way to win money off of me in a poker game is put me in a low stakes poker game.
Because you don't care.
And I'll lose like the most ever possible for the level of blinds. Like it's like, wait, we were only playing 1-2. How did he lose $50,000? You know, it's like, because you're goofing off, you're having fun, you're putting people in pressure, and they're figuring you out, right? Like you're completely out of balance. You're not playing GTO. You're just having fun. And then the next thing you know, you're like, oh wow, I'm in the hole. I lost $50K. You know?
In high school, I knew I was not good at poker, but a bunch of friends like to play. And my only strategy to try to win, I'd tell them my cards. Fucks with people. Like I would literally, and of course sometimes you lie, right? And then they would never know. They're like, you know, you tell them 3-4 times, you flip the cards over after the hand, or you win, whatever, and like they're like, this dude really telling us his cards. And then every once in a while you get them, right? And you probably don't win nearly as much as if you're just good at poker. But I used to enjoy the like mental fuckery
Exactly.
that you could put on your friends.
Exactly.
Right?
I know that feeling.
Of them being like, wait a minute, this dude told me he had an ace when we started. He won't tell me what his second card was. You know, okay, fine, I fold. He only flips over the ace, but he won't show me the other, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I used to just enjoy it, but man, do your friends get pissed?
Yeah. I used to, when I was first playing and goofing off, guys would go all in, and I'd be like, look, if you don't have a pair, I don't have a pair, but I'll call you if you don't have a pair. So they have ace king, right? Obviously, right?
Yeah.
And I'll have like 7-8. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'll be like, fuck it, 60-40, let's go. You know what I mean? Like let's try and get lucky, you know?
Yeah.
And they just be sitting there sweating like holy shit, you know? Just because I like the pressure. I was just a degenerate.
What's the biggest hand you've ever played?
I don't know, like $2 million pot, $2.5 million pot, you know? So that's like $1 million of my money, $1 million of their money. You know what I mean?
Did you win?
No. Just recently happened in Omaha, motherfuckers.
Really?
Yeah. And so like, I mean, it's just a sick game, sick game. But
what's the biggest hand you've seen someone else play?
well, I was in London. This is a funny story. I can't tell the names.
Okay.
But I was in London playing Omaha. And I was like,
I'm gonna check your Instagram. I'll know exactly who it was.
Yeah. So these degenerates are playing. I'm like, I want to go to the box. I want to be a real degenerate. Let's go to the box, London. It's a fun place. Like, how can you guys just sit here all day? It's like 3 days of playing cards. And I'm like, I'm going to the box. You guys come to the box and then now. So I go to the box. I come back. They're like, oh my God, you missed it. We had a $10 million pot. This guy, you know, they go through all the thing. They're like, one of the guys goes, listen, don't put your money in. Okay, I have aces suited and or whatever. Like, don't put your money in. The person knows they have aces, at least aces, but not double suited. They knows they have aces. They go, put your fucking money in or fold, because they re-raised. And they re-raised, and they're like, put your fucking money in fold. I was like, I'm telling you, I have aces. They show them. They like literally tell them, I have aces, right? Like a big pot. You're not fucking with somebody. And then the other guy has to call because of possible bid. So they have this like $10 million pot. The person who has said, put your money in fucking fold, to the guy who had king, spiked the king on 2 boards. Almost scooped the whole fucking pot. But the other luck box guy over here, you know, rivered a fucking runner straight and chopped it. So they split like $4.5 million. That's the biggest pot I've could have been part of. I wasn't there. Glad I wasn't there, because I probably, you know what I mean? Probably been like, well, shit, I gotta call. There's so much money in it.
It's for the story.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta call. Too much money syndrome. You know what I mean? So Omaha brings the sickest degenerates out. Yeah. You know.
But like, it's got to be fun though, right? To like sit there for 3 days and play.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoy the people. You get to talk and have a lot of time with people that you like and love. But it also gets tiring. Like, we can have fun doing other stuff. Like, let's go see some sick, twisted, demented shit at the Box London and then go out or whatever. You know, I want to go to Frameless and see this digital art museum, which is cool. You know what I mean? And so that's part of my whole like be balanced life. You know, like what experiences do I want to be having? And like, yeah, playing poker with my friends and goofing off and trying to hurt them financially. You know, but not too hard, right? Yeah. is fun. But I also, you know, want to have these experiences and these other experiences, you know, parties. As a matter of fact, one of the people was like, all right, Perkins, next time I promise you we're going to go out. We're going to actually have this experience. I know what you want. We're going to do it. I said, okay, we'll play poker and we're going to do it. Deal.
Yeah. Where can we send people to find you on the internet who don't already follow you on Instagram?
Yeah. So, oh gosh. So if you're not if you guys like want, you know, to, I'm on Twitter.
Where's the professional Bill? And then where's the party Bill?
Party Bill's on Instagram. I'm Bill Perkins. I'm less party on Twitter. Yeah. I'm at BP22. And I'm more, I have another account, which is USA Energy Nat Gas. Which is all just natural gas talk, right? I had to separate them out. Like, but what's this fucking hot take you have about like libertarian politics and shit like that? Get the fuck out of here.
I read through your Twitter account before you came today, and there was like normal. Whoa, okay. And I was like, I think I found someone with more hot takes than me.
Yeah. Like he comes in, you know, getting out, you know. But one thing is good though about Twitter is like people have changed my mind. Like I have conceded arguments. Like I'll be like, I concede, you're right.
Yeah.
And I get value out of that. But a lot of
and
times,
that makes people want to engage the next time because they're like, look, he's going to fight like hell in this argument, but if I make a good point, he will change his mind. And I actually think people over time learn who does that on Twitter and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And the people who don't, eventually people are just like, dude, fuck off. Like, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, I use it for the exchange of ideas, and I debate to come to an answer. Sometimes just debate to like just be right? Like I'm trying to get to an answer or better solution. And a lot of times, your biases or your entrenched beliefs or et cetera, like we're really just arguing some sort of philosophical belief that's probably not going to change.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really like, oh no, you're right. This policy is a better policy. Or yeah, right. Like I have been swayed over here on this situation. Right. And so
that's why I write in the mornings and I get emails back and like sometimes people send me an email and I'm like, wow, that was like very thoughtful. And like they included links.
Yeah.
Whenever you see the hyperlink, you're like, oh fuck. Like,
they got receipts.
like, or at least like I didn't probably see that.
Yes.
Right. And so like maybe it doesn't even prove what they're actually saying, but you just know that like they really care because they took the time to go find the link and hyperlink you. You're like, all right, fine, I'll read it.
Yeah, I've gone through that. And I purposely have a lot of accounts I follow that are completely way out of my political spectrum. Like I don't agree with like 80% or 70% to say, or not that I don't agree what they say, like they correctly identify the problem or the issue, but their solution, I'm like 90% against it or whatever, but I don't want to be in an echo chamber.
Yeah, of course.
And Twitter allows me not to be in an echo chamber. And I'm like, okay, I get this perspective. I know where they're coming from. I feel their pain. I just don't necessarily agree with their solution, and so I enjoy that aspect of it because I liken. It's kind of like when you're a parent, you love the kid, but mom and dad have drastically different ways on ways. No, don't do that. He's gonna turn into a pussy. We gotta, like blah blah blah. No, you have to do this way, right? Like, and it's like. That's kind of like America, right? Like we all like, and except on Twitter, we start to demonize each other, right? Like, no, you're just a fucking racist, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's easy to say you're a rich guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. I care about this kid. And I think this is the best way to raise, to get things done in America. And so, I think that understanding on Twitter is kind of missing.
I think that
there are people that want to burn it down. You know what I mean?
Of course. But I think it's missing, and so you end up valuing the people who are there for the same reasons.
Yes.
Right. And those are the people you want to read. Those are the people you want to engage with. Those are maybe you don't even do it publicly. You may DM them or whatever. Right. But like you very quickly over time realize like what's worth your time and what's not.
Yeah.
And if you're new to Twitter, it's very hard to do that. And then also like I always see somebody will like join Twitter who's like well known or something. They'll tweet stuff and immediately they're like responding to everyone like this is amazing, right? Like I gotta like interact with those people, and then they have like a hater, and like you see them respond and you're like, oh no, don't do this. And one of the best ones that is similar to this. Do you remember when Steve Cohen got on Twitter and somehow he got in an argument with Dave Portnoy?
No.
Portnoy said something. And Cohen like responded, but like was kind of like going after him, like kind of playing the card like I'm a billionaire or whatever, and like said something like let's take this offline. And Dave like quote tweeted him and was like, nah, that's where like shady shit happens. You want to have a conversation like out here in public. And I was like, dude, Steve, put the phone down. Like there's no bank account that's getting you out of this one.
Yeah, I know.
And next thing you know, like he like deleted his account like a couple days later or that day or whatever.
Right.
And of course, like the internet, it's a fucking war when it comes to, it was like, Portnoy and the Barstool guys that came back with a billionaire's head. They were like, we like literally bodied him off the internet.
Oh, how about when they tried to they sent the reporters out for Portnoy about like rape or sex or something, and he had receipts. You know what I mean? Like and I was like, he was right. Like I think it was Business Insider that went after him.
There was a couple of them, but it works in both directions because like you have that, and then on the other side, CNBC. They were standing outside the Twitter headquarters, and I don't know if you saw the two kids,
that was great.
Two guys or whatever.
Ligma?
Yeah, Ligma Johnson. Like I was like, the second you saw it, you're like, genius. Like they got him. And the tweet, you like check a couple times throughout the day. You're like, is the tweet still up? The tweet's still up. They haven't realized it.
Yeah.
And the internet is like on fire.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're like, I cannot believe someone tricked the reporters. And like again, there's enough stories. Like eventually somebody will get tricked, whatever. But it does.
Oh yeah, they get me sometimes. They got me. They're like guys. They're like. This is a parody account. I was like,
See that's how they
sorry.
get you,
that,
right?
That was my my prompt for quality time with my wife.
Well, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, we do. No. So no. Like I generally like, it's a lot of life is behavior design. Like people are like, how'd you lose all this weight? Whatever. And I was like, you just design for success.
Yes.
And so like internal prompts or reminders are the worst. And so just a lot of it's just like set a prompt, set an alarm.
I also think, was it James Clear in Atomic Habits? He talks about you can actually set the habit not by doing the full thing you wanted to do, but like if you want to go to the gym, even if you just go for 5 minutes and you do that every day, day after day after day after day, eventually you stay for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Like, and now you're a person who goes to the gym and you don't have to invest 2 hours to get started. Whereas if you put the 2 hours in, like you're probably not going to stick with it.
I agree.
And so same thing here, right?
Yeah. It's like I'm so scheduled and I have a full life. Like I need like to design my life to have this level of productivity that I want and that I enjoy. I have to delegate. I have to hire smart people. I got to fire myself all the time. Like you're fucking fired. And then I have to have prompts. I have to have a lot of prompts.
What else do you have prompts for?
Everything. I have prompts for like, go work out, go do this, call my friend. You know what I mean? Check this. A lot of the prompts are like already on my phone. Fucking Twitter notifications. Must Twitter battle. No. I actually just decided.
Fight.
I actually just decided to delete my chess app. Because
I saw you tweeted that.
Yeah. Because that's something I can do later in life and enjoy. And it's taking away from time for activities I should be doing now with friends, or whether it's poker or goofing off or et cetera.
How many hours a week were you spending on the chess app?
I need to go do the analysis, but it was too much. And it was like infrequent. Like I'll have 6 or 7 games going, 3-day games, whatever. And then late at night, I'd be up at night doing speed chess battles forever.
Yeah.
Because speed chess is so goddamn addicting. And I was just like, I should be sleeping. I should be thinking about something else. These neurons should not be dedicated to this puzzle. It should be dedicated to some other puzzle.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a social puzzle of like, how do I get closer to my daughters, or like a business puzzle in SkyFi or SynMax at a very high strategic level, or what do I think about supply and demand balance in October 23 for natural gas? Like these neurons were getting sucked up, and I'm like, I can play chess until I'm 95 online. Like I do not need to do that. I need to be connecting with people and using these neurons for other things. Yeah. So I'm just I'm gonna have the courtesy to finish the last 3 games, and then I'm gonna delete the app for another 10 or 15 years.
I love that.
I mean, I will play live. Like when I sit down with Dan, we play live. That's another social.
You play chess or you play poker? Usually?
Chess. We play chess. We just
Not
sit around.
poker.
Honestly, like people think when I go to his house, like there's girls and there's orgies and whatever. It really is just playing chess and talking about life. Like what is it? What is love? The difference between love and fear and connection.
What do you think you learned from Dan Bilzerian, and what do you think he learned from you?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Dan, well, one thing is he taught me I did not want to be famous at his level. And so right after I got divorced, right, there's this whole formula to getting famous in the way he was doing it, right? It's like, show your life, create a thirst trap, have all these girls around, people don't care about this, post that, blah, blah, blah. Then you can move on to other things and you have this big fame platform. And I was of the ilk that once you have a fame platform, you can, Natalie Portman's not the expert, but they have her speak in front of Congress, right? Like charities will be like, get the famous guy on, et cetera. And so I felt like it was powerful and monetizable, right? Very monetizable at a very high level. And what I learned from Dan is that you can monetize it in sex. Like that is the #1 monetization of fame, is that you can have sex on demand everywhere and people will come to you. More powerful than money by 100x. Okay. But the things I like to do, travel the world, walk around streets, etc., would be taken away from me forever. Like when I'm hanging out with Dan, we go out, we're in Italy, we're traveling out, we cannot walk anywhere. We're like, oh, look at this alley and these bars or whatever. He's like, I can't do it. Because they're like, can I get a picture? Can I whatever? We're talking whatever. We're like, we'll be having a conversation like, yeah, my dad died and I really didn't get along with him and blah, blah, blah. And just constantly harass. And it's like, and then not only do they want a picture, people naturally want to try and connect. So they want to tell a story about how they know you. And it's just like, oh my God, can we just enjoy ourselves? And it's like, famous people hide. Like they can't do the things I want to do. Like they can't go biking through Europe and they can't do that. And I was like, I would basically give up my entire fucking life to create this fame thing. And I was like, no fucking way. No fucking way. Like I'm not that horny. You know what I mean? I'm just not that horny. Like, and so I learned that. He ran that experiment and we learned that and a couple other things. But I think
he regrets it?
Huh?
You think he regrets it?
Oh, 1,000%.
Really?
He will tell you he's miserable. It's a cage. You literally become a boy in a bubble. Like you think J-Lo can just go walk around Brickell and be like, look at the stops? No. You think any famous person that you can think of, like of like that recognizability can like walk around, go in a restaurant without getting harassed. You know what I mean? They just surround themselves with the people they already knew from the hood or the boys or whatever. And then they hang out with other famous people because they know, well, you're not trying to get famous and you're not going to fanboy me, fangirl me, right? So they can just, that's it, right? Yeah. So they have a way worse quality of life than somebody who makes like 40 grand a year because they can't explore the planet and enjoy it. I mean, they can explore it, but they're in a bubble. They're on somebody's yacht and they can't go this way. There's security guards. They can't have these authentic experiences, going here and going there. Like, yeah, they have these gilded, bubbled, cookie cutter life that every single rich person can have, but they don't have the rich experiences of like being anonymous affords you, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, fuck no. I dialed it back. There goes, just my diary. Like it's just my regular life, my kids, my family, my dog. I'm traveling here, flying there, whatever. And so I learned that like that was like a hot stove.
And it's helpful when you have famous friends because then you can like, hey, let's go somewhere. I need the fame, right? Or like the fame is going to be helpful. Yeah, but your friend is going to pay for it.
You can like they can help you or whatever, but it's like it's really not. It's really like it's extremely hard to monetize the wealth I'm trying to create, right? Or I was trying to create. I didn't see the path. You know what I mean? Like I look at like, what did Tom Brady make last year, and what did Giselle make? Like Giselle's way richer. You know what I mean? Like did I look at like other famous people, and it's like. Oh, that's nice. That's quaint. Like I have bigger dreams than that, right? Like, and they had to go tap dance, whatever, and then now they can't walk around. Like they're all hiding from the crowd all the time. They can't have even think about Mike Phelps, right? That motherfucker was mobbed all the fucking time. We were walking around like I couldn't go anywhere. We sat down and we were literally having a deep emotional conversation. We were constantly getting abrupt, and people they think like. Oh, it's only 5 seconds. It's only whatever. It's like every raindrop thinks it's only raindrop, but it's a fucking tsunami out here. You know what I mean? And like you're sick of the fucking raindrops, right? And so, and then if you don't take the picture or do the thing or pause, you're the asshole or whatever. You know what I mean? And so like, I was like, this is horrible. And like, how much could he possibly monetize out of the Olympics and the Wheaties commercial? You know what I mean? Like, fuck that shit.
Yeah, but I also think it's those individuals who end up obtaining fame, many of them, they were focused on something else and they get the fame. There are some people who they want the fame for the fame's sake and they think they can monetize it and all that. But when you actually look at how much money you make, one, it's not that much, but two is the people who do make a lot of money from the fame just end up doing the thing that the rich people who aren't famous do. End up building companies or making investments.
Well, it's like I was like, wow, everybody became a rapper to become a VC. You know what I mean? Like,
just skip the rap stuff.
Like Nas is making all this money as a VC. Snoop is making all this money as a VC. Shaq is a VC. Like I'm like, what's his name from? Used to be married to Demi Moore. Has a VC company.
Ashton Kutcher?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
and he's like actually pretty good.
So they are monetizing their fame correctly. They're using it to call up these hot VCs and like, hey, it's Ashton Kutcher. Well, guess what the computer nerd is going to do? He's going to take a phone call from Ashton Kutcher, right? Like everybody's trying to get into his company. Beyonce calls him or so-and-so calls him. They're going to get in. So like Nas or whatever, like fucking Nas call me. And then they can bring our brand out there on the platform. So we'll get like this free advertising. And so these guys get in equity in these companies and they kill it. Like 50 Cent on vitamin water, you know? Like they realize like, oh, this is the real money, right? This is the real money. Like I was actually basically an hourly employee, you know, being a singer, whatever. You know, I had a little piece of my record deal or whatever, but I can invest in a company and it can 1,000x it, you know, that's the real money, right?
Or I just read this book by Zach Greenberg about Jay-Z. And what he talks about is there's a number of products over the years that Jay-Z would rap about. And there was a bunch of controversy over whether he had relationships with the brands or not.
Right.
And some of them, like the champagne and things like that, eventually it did come out that he had the relationship. But for years, people didn't know. And so what he would basically do, which I think he learned from Damon Dash, is he would go and he would do the deal and then rap about them.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of a nonchalant, you know, in a line or something, whatever.
Right.
And then he would be sitting there just making money because he recorded one time. It's playing over and over and over again on the radio. That brand becomes a thing. And like, look at this genius. He's not just getting paid on the plays. He's also getting paid not in like traditional advertising dollars. He's just getting the equity in companies that benefit from being included in a song, which then other rappers want to rap about. And like, it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you know, this thing of Adidas and Run DMC, but they already had the song, but they brought the Adidas executives and they saw my Adidas, and everybody takes their fucking Adidas shoes and they're like, oh fuck, we're in the rap game now. You know what I mean? Like, and so like it's powerful, right? Because it's culture, right? And people do that. And I just want to point out, like, when a company gets a 10x multiple, every extra dollar, you get 10x. So like that's a big difference when you can move the needle with your frame. Like, so that's the proper monetization. You know, Dan is monetizing his fame in sex, pussy, right? Whatever. Can I say pussy on this show?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, so he's monetizing it that way, and I'm just like, I don't have that type of sex drive. Like, I don't. This is like completely a disaster. And even if I could, you know, I'm fortunate enough to like, I have a skill set that I've developed to like trade and make money in other ways, right? So like I can be Z-level famous, which is perfect. Like 1 in 300 people recognize me, right? Like 1 in 400, right? Like, you know, people who even before like poker or whatever, like the Nat Gas community, they know who I am, right? Like, and then, you know, the poker community kind of knows who I am, right? Like they know me. And so like, and now the Twitterverse and other reasons, some people, but it's enough where it's like, get a little ego stroke, you know what I mean? Maybe you'll get a restaurant reservation, but like I can actually go backpacking and walking around and enjoy, I can enjoy planet Earth. Not where I can't walk around and enjoy planet Earth and I always have to be like security guarded and hanging around only famous people and always in a bubble and only go to these places.
I also think about the thing you become famous for. So like there's you're too famous, right? Like Messi, he's not going anywhere in the world, right? The Jay-Z's, the, you know, Dan's, whatever, like like they're recognizable and there's such a big audience that people want to talk to them. But also there's a way that some people get famous, but they get famous in like kind of a cool way. So I heard Casey Neistat. I don't know if you know this guy. He's on YouTube. He's got a couple million subscribers. Became like a pretty well-known documentarian and filmmaker and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, he loves New York because he was like, in New York, his just like kind of vibe was super down to earth. So he'd be going down the street and be like, yo, Casey, what's up? But they wouldn't mob him. They wouldn't, you know, like do all the crazy stuff. And so it was like kind of the energy he was putting out in the world also set kind of the relationship with the audience, right? And so if you're the one who's walking around and you're getting driven around in all the cars and the security guards and all this, people are social animals, man. They're just like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to mob you.
We're social herd animals,
right?
You know what I mean? And so that goes on. But so that's what I learned. Like I was gonna get the PR machine and create the fame game and try and play that, and I realized
and you hit the eject
need
button.
a fucking scratch. Like need to completely change my mind about the fame thing. And then I guess, you know, what Dan has been learning from me is that like love is the answer. You know, like like Dan, not fear and like not control. You know what I mean? Like I think like, you know, he's had a relationship where he's been hurt, and you know, what I point out to him, like his wall is control, you know, not letting go, being in control, right? which is fear-based living.
Of course.
And you know, trying to break down that wall and stop the circus, right? Like just letting them know like the circus is robbing you of your life.
So you said you'd smoke him in poker. Who wins in chess?
Oh, he won't even play me in chess anymore.
He's
gonna listen. He got mad the last time.
He's gonna listen to this and be like, "Fucking Bill went on this podcast."
He might have got better. You know, he's not terrible, but like I actually had like 2 lessons. It's amazing, like if you get like 2 lessons or 3 lessons, how you just like think a little bit differently about the game, and then like he was just like, "You're getting lessons and you're playing all the time. I'm not playing you anymore." Like I beat him, and it was just like, "Fuck this shit." You know? No, he might play me. I'm like, let's go play. Like, you know, we'll get out, we'll hang out, you know, do stuff and just talk live, play games. Now he likes to play, you know, we'll play Mario Kart because he can smoke me in Mario Kart, and he can absolutely smoke me in like that zombie game where you're
game selection.
Oh yeah, he's game selection.
Yeah.
And he's like literally like he's really, really, really good at paintball.
Interesting.
Really good. Like it's like unfair if Dan's on your team.
Got it. Where can we send people to find more about SkyFi too?
SkyFi. So yeah, we actually want to talk SkyFi. Like, so SkyFi, you want to go to skyfi.com.
Okay.
That's it. SKYFI.com. There's skyfi.app on Twitter. That's where it's at, you know? And anybody, you know, I want to say like shameless plug. Everybody out there has value and has a problem that they can solve if given the information, right? There's a lot of people, like some of them have no interest, right? And there's a cause they care about. And when I get the information and tools in your hands, you'll be able to make an impact, right? And so as we go down our product roadmap, not only would be like, cool, I can order satellite, and look at this. It's like, you know, I really care about pollution in this area, or I really care about the Amazon. I'm going to monitor this area for illegal logging and farming. You know, I'm actually going to document it and blah, 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 and make a stir and do a GoFundMe or whatever it is you do. I'm making up a silly example, but not a silly example, a real example that you'll be able to have an impact in your world. And so I'm really excited for not just the businesses, not the governments and the spooks who use spies to try and find, you know, use these satellites for targeting and bombing people, right? But for the people that are going to have a meaningful impact on our world and make it better for, you know, I'm old, so maybe not me, but for my children. You know,
I love it. That's a great place for us then. Thank you so much for coming on. And anyone who has not read the book or checked out SkyFi, I highly suggest that you do that. And we'll definitely do this again in the future.
Okay, I'd love to. Thanks.